Hello.
What's up, Natasha?
Hello.
What's up? For some reason, it's saying Jasmine's unable to join. Jazz, you might need to download. You might need to upgrade. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna keep trying her. I know, Chastity, you're recruiting. You're in the middle. You're trying to get ready for the season. LaTice, you in the middle of your season and everything. So I know it's like crazy right now.
COVID and everything, it's hard to get the eye test. It just
It is.
is.
It
It's
is.
hard, so we got to just go off of, watching them on film and watching them on TV. So, but I like when I'm able to have the eye test just to see the personality on the court and different
Exactly.
things like that. So we'll see
Exactly.
what happens.
Yes. Well, now we lost the other one. We haven't some technical. Hello, Jasmine.
Hey, how are y'all?
Hey,
Great.
Jasmine, glad you
Hey,
could make it.
thank you.
Oh,
Where's
soon as
Keith?
I get. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to try to get Tease back on. But uh, how have y'all been dealing with COVID-19 over the last, 12 months?
Uh,
Where to begin first? It was, you think back when you first heard it and started. For me, I work in the school system, so I was kind of like, all right, well, maybe I'll get a week off of school. And then the week turned into like 6 months, and now and I'm like, well, wait, I just kind of wanted a couple days, maybe, but no, but like, you look at how serious it is. Like when, it first kind of came out, you didn't really know too much about it, but you start to see the impact and how it's affecting everyone. And so it's huge. I can't even believe like we're kind of living through this at the moment. So just trying to live as normal as possible. That's
Yes.
the thing. That's the hard part.
What about you, Chastity? How did it change like your career, or how did it change? Like I know that y'all were y'all season was in the summer. So did it make any, changes?
Well, for me, I was just getting into my coaching career at Loyola in Baltimore. So I was finally excited that I was going to be able to be at the Final Four as an assistant coach for NCAA women's program. And so COVID cut that short. We were able to finish our season, but fortunately for me and unfortunately in a way, kind of like, but more so fortunate, the WNBA called, and I was able to get an assistant coaching position with Phoenix and ended up playing in the bubble. So that was different,
Woo!
but it actually just kind of, COVID was challenging, but at the same time, I got an opportunity to do something that I've always wanted to do. So, and I always tell people, like, you make plans and God laughs at you. Like, I was trying to get in the WNBA so hard, trying to get back into coaching. And then obviously, COVID happens, things shut down.
Mhm.
We're getting furloughed in the NCAA, and then I end up getting a coaching job in the WNBA. So, that's why I know God is real.
Exactly.
I couldn't have planned that story. But it's been difficult scouting. Like I was just speaking to you earlier, I would love to have the eye test and really see some of these future draft picks in person because I'm a strong believer in the eye test. But at the end of the day, you just got to watch film and watch a lot of film. And I'm pretty good about players. I know who can ball and everything, but still at the same time, I like to have that eye test.
Right. Well, I'm still trying to get Tease on, but let me just get started with the first question. So, what was your I'm gonna introduce y'all, but I just want to hear, like, in general, what was the one thing that kind of drew you to basketball when you first started? I know that was a long time ago.
For me, it was, so I have an older brother. I have a few older brothers, but the one that I'm the most closest with, he played. So growing up, we were only three years apart. So I just kind of wanted to do whatever he did. So if he was playing basketball, I wanted to go play. Whatever he was doing, I needed to do. And so seeing him play and things like that, that drew me to want to play basketball. And once I found out I was kind of good, I was like, oh, all right, well, let me stick with this and let's see what can happen. So it all started just being a tag along, following my brother around. And that's just how it all started.
Okay.
For me,
Okay.
I was I was raised in the South, so the girls really weren't playing basketball. But I remember my fourth grade teacher asking me to play an intramurals game, and because I was tall, so she said, "Just go out there and stand out there, just stand there." And I was like, "Okay, I can do that." But I got the ball and I made my first basket, and that was all she wrote. Like I couldn't think of
Mm.
anything else after that. And I remember coming home and telling my grandmother and my mother, like, I'm going to be a basketball player. And
Aw.
yeah, so that's just kind of like how it went. It was love at first sight. Basketball was my first love, and that's it.
Okay. Well, I know that Jasmine, I know you played at Northeast. What was the junior college that you played at?
Northeast Community College.
Northeast
And
Community College. And then you went to Missouri Southern. And
mhm.
then after that, I know that you went to Australia. Could you tell us a little bit about that transition?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity again to play. I played JUCO 2 years, loved it, and that's where I kind of met my connection to play overseas in Australia. I then went to Missouri Southern State. I graduated from there, um, with kind of graduating and not knowing what to do next, and the next step, how to pursue to play professionally, or at least anything after college, not having any outlets, any resources or anything like that. My old teammate from Northeast, her husband reached out and was like, "Hey, I have a coach that's looking for a player from over here in the States, and you're the first person that came to mind. It's going to be a quick transition for you, but if you're up for it, I'll give them your information, and we'll see what happens." And so maybe December of 2015, I reached out, sent a few emails back and forth, sent some videos and everything like that. And they just kind of sent the email back like, "Hey, if you're interested, we'll love for you to come over sometime in February." So from December to February, I was like, "Listen, this is like once in a lifetime. I'm not going to let it pass." So I just was like, "Yep, I'm going to do it." So I left the end of February and was playing by March. And so I played for 4 years, two different teams. My first year, I played for Southern Peninsula Sharks in Melbourne, Australia. And then my last 3 years, I played for Chelsea Goals. And they're both in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah. Okay, so before you got on, I was talking about how Chasity is in the middle of recruiting and LaTice is in the middle of her season, and you just had a baby a few days ago.
Yes. Yeah. No. If
so
a
y'all are all
here,
so
shout out to
busy.
y'all, because that was something. It was an experience, but yes, before I became a mom. Yep.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So Chasity, I know that you're an author, and on top of having your own show, which is called the God's Child Podcast. Make sure y'all check that out.
Yeah,
And so
check out the
book,
God's Child podcast.
yes. I know that you have a book called At the End of the Day, and I know that you were talking about a lot of different things that happen in your life. Could you talk a little bit about the transition between college and professional?
Wow. It was a transition, I'll tell you that much. I thought I was really good until I got to the pros. You know what I'm saying? I was drafted first round, so I was excited. I was like, I'm gonna go kick butt. I was like, really, like I was gonna go kick ass, but those veterans kicked my butt. I was just trying to survive every day in practice. The game was just a totally different speed, and the players, I mean, everyone was just as good as you, and some
Right.
were more talented. So that transition was difficult. And then off the court, I'm playing basketball and I'm making money. But I'm not making money like people feel like I'm making. Like my sister graduated, got a corporate job. She was making more money than me playing in the WNBA. So at the end of the day, just dealing with the different stereotypes that came with that off the court, family things, being a independent female that, people perceive like you're a star, and, you're a black female, now you're making money, you should have this. And it was just a lot, just that transition. But I just started focusing on the court, and I just, wanted to become the best pro I could be, and also stay in the pros. My goal
Right.
was like, I'm not going back home. I didn't want to disappoint myself. I didn't want to disappoint my family. So at the end of the day, it just made you stronger and became a pro. But there were a lot of challenges off the court and on the court. But it was something that, fortunately for me, I was a part of the first wave, so we went through it together, and everybody just kind of helped each other out, and we just kind of came up with our own blueprint. And now you see what the WNBA is today. And these young women are developing another blueprint. So at the end of the day, we just winged it, and we did the best that we knew how.
Right, right. Well, yeah, you definitely were a part of the group that paved the way for us. We had to look at somebody like, okay, this is something that's possible. I'm really still trying to get Tees on right now because I really wanted to hear
Maybe
it.
ask Tees to join. She can request to join.
Yeah, she has been, but it's like it's
it
not working. I don't know
it's not working.
why.
Uh, I don't know. This is the first time I've done the IG live like this, but it's a cool concept. I see we can have more
Yeah,
people.
but she was on her with no problem earlier, so I don't
Right.
know why is it doing that. I don't know if it's technical. I know that they said you can have up to 4, so that should be a problem. And I did try to test it out. Okay, so next question. Do you feel like when you were in college that as a Black woman athlete that you were given, I guess, grace? Or do you feel like you were treated good when you were in college? And I asked that because, like, when I was on the Gosh Child podcast, I talked about how my brother also played at Missouri Southern, which Jasmine and Tees know, because we all played. I don't think the crowd knows. So I played for 2 years, and they played for 2 years, except for they were seniors when they left, and I was a sophomore. So I basically left after my sophomore year. But we all played together. We were literally like this the whole time we were in school. And so my brother was also in their year. So he was a senior when I was a sophomore. And I feel like that Black male athletes can kind of transition a little bit better in college because and I'm talking about predominantly white colleges, because they kind of are put on a pedestal while they're in college. Now, after college, they can throw you to the wolves. But in the middle, while you're playing, I felt like they were kind of put on a pedestal, but I just felt like it was hard for us. Like, we had to get it out the mud. Like, we weren't considered, top notch, I feel like. How do y'all feel as far as college? Chastity, you can start.
I feel like college on every level. My experience going to a predominantly white university at North Carolina State University, I had a great coach that really, pushed for women in general. Coach K.I., rest in peace, was a pioneer of the game, and so she came into a situation at NC State where she had to do everything and beg for support for all women's sports. So she was someone that really pushed us, but overall, as far as branding and from fans and from the athletic support, there was none really for the women. At the end of the day, everything Coach Al had to do, like I learned this after I graduate, everything she fought for and fought for every day. The men's coach would get just going in and talking to the AD for 5 minutes. Or things like that. And I didn't learn that much later till afterwards. I didn't know all the challenges she had. The guy players, yeah, I hung out with them. They lived the life. They were just living the life on campus, and that goes across the board with football players. Any of the male athletes had a wonderful time. After college, like you said, it became a little bit challenging if they didn't make it pro. But I think it's different too. We're really focused on getting our degrees. So that part, we know we had to get a college degree because professional sports wasn't really around. But there were a lot of challenges with just like, I think the fan support, especially we had a lot of Black African American women on the team. You're from the South, like who's really supporting that? Just the look of that. So at the end of the day, there were some challenges. And you just manage your way through it. You just really.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chastity kind of hit on all the aspects, and especially the stuff that we kind of dealt with at Missouri Southern State University. We, as the women basketball team, if we want to talk about fans or support from anyone outside of it, that didn't happen until like the last couple minutes because everyone's coming for the men's game, and so they're like, "Oh, you guys won," and it's like, "Well, did you see how hard we worked to get there? What we had to do?" And you just see it. And again, you said we focus on our degrees and things like that, and that's definitely true because I think for the men, it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make it," or they have those resources, those outlets where even if they don't go pro to the NBA, they have those options, a lot of options for overseas and things like that. Where for women, it's like, oh, you're done playing. All right, so what are you going to do for work? And it's like, well, I want to do what he's doing. I want to go play overseas just like that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a challenge. It's a huge challenge.
Right. I can't imagine the pressure because kind of like Chastity said, when you got into the WNBA, everybody's looking at you like, oh, well, she's like this now, and they kind of giving you all these stereotypes. But everybody knows that women's sports is not supported like it should be, and like it's not paid the way it should be either. Like it's all of these issues. To me, it stems from a paradigm that women are worth less than men. Like people actually think that, and there's nothing that's literally saying that. And if people actually took time, which they did last year, to watch the WNBA, they're like, oh, like this is actually entertaining. It's like, yes, they know how to play. They've been playing for their whole life. One thing about the ESPN is that they say the ESPN only plays 3% of their programming of women's sports. So it's like they can't say, well, women's basketball is boring. No, it's not. When the guys do watch, like say if the team will stay and watch, they're cheering the whole time. They're happy the whole time. It's intense. Like I don't understand where the women's sports is not entertaining thing came from.
Well, it just it comes from the media. Who works in the media? I majored in communication, so I was trying to be the next Robin Roberts. So I had an up close view once fortunately I got drafted, but when I did try to apply for, I worked at a local news station in Wilmington, North Carolina, and everyone that works there are males. If you go to the newspaper, who's writing the articles? Males. Mm-hmm. And how do most of the majority of males feel about women's sports? So what they put out, I feel like not all, I won't say all of the media, because there's some great guys that wrote great articles and really pushed me here in my hometown that really supported me in women's basketball. So I'm not going to say all males, but the percentage of males across the percentage of media and the percentage of males working in media across the board spin a negative light on women's sports in general. Not just basketball, but tennis, softball, the whole nine, soccer, the whole nine. Soccer is great, brings a lot of great fans, but they'll talk about the men's soccer team that are losing, don't really have a lot of fans before they'll, talk about the women. And, I've had family members reach out to people at the media, like, why don't you cover? And they're like, nobody wants to read it. Like, nobody, they're like, it's in their mind, like, nobody wants to read it. And that baffles me that people aren't ahead of the game or don't see the big picture. Because I remember growing up, and still to this point, you go to the sports section. I read the sports section. Don't let the pros fool you guys. Everybody reads what all the media people write. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about basketball, so you're going down the line, you're going pro, you're going semi-pro, you're going overseas, you're going, the local pro teams, going college basketball. If you put a little paragraph, small paragraph about women's basketball, any avid sports fan is going to read it. They're not going to stop reading and say, no, this is about women. No, I'm not reading that. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying like, give us, people were calling just like, what was the score? People weren't calling and asking for like a front page, like they give all the men in 3 or 4 paragraphs. It's just like they did play for a championship last night. You didn't put the score up. You didn't talk about the leading score. It's like 2 sentences. So, and you saying, oh, no one wants to know about that. So I just find it, it's ridiculous. But when people can get away with it and they can push the narrative the way they want to push it, that's how it goes. So now with social media in this day and age, you have people that are really behind women's sports. You have all these platforms. all these branded, people are branding women's sports. So now we're putting it out there and people are able to see it, not just, back in the day, it was just a newspaper or a magazine or your local news station. Now you can find it everywhere. So that's been huge for not only the WNBA, but all women's sports.
Right. What about you, Jazz? What's your take on it? The fact that they don't push women's sports, they're not writing about women's sports or talking about it, but yet they say that nobody wants to know about it.
I think it's unfortunate because I think about my hometown and some of the players that I've had come through my high school, and we've had a few girls that went Division I and things like that, but it didn't happen because of the newspaper. It didn't happen because someone put out an article. And the school that I went to, that I coach for now, we were fortunate enough to win like multiple conference championships, make it to the state title game multiple years in a row. And you're talking about, if you do get a section in the newspaper, it's like 4 sentences, and it's like, well, we looking at the guys that made it, and you got this long script for the home team that just lost, and it's like, why are we wasting our time? Like, what are we really focusing on?
Right.
Or like the girls here, some of the teams here, we were fortunate, both our women's and our men's team both made it to the state game. For us to get a fan bus, we got to wait for the men to win. And it's like, well, wait, like, why won't we just book it for the girls and then book another one when the boys win? So it's just like, you see it and you're like, you don't really get the picture. Like, not writing it like, it's doing more harm for them, because that could be an outlet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if they can't get video out or things like that? Coaches can't make the game, but what if they can just read that little section, or what someone doesn't know about them or something like that? So I think, like, they try to be like, no one wants to read it, but in reality, if they only knew, a lot of people do want to read it. Like, like, yeah, we love, the men's games and things like that, but everyone loves a very intense women's basketball game. Don't get me, like, it's like, let's watch that and let's see what's going to be the outcome. So, it's frustrating to see, but it happens so often. So, now we're put in this position to kind of find different outlets, to be successful and to get the coverage that we need.
Right.
Just to add to that, Natasha, sorry before you, everyone in America loves winners. So if your women's team is winning, I don't care if it's softball, they're gonna jump on. So like, it's one thing if people in the media in general want to say, well, we don't write about it because they aren't successful, or you're losing, or there's not a lot of great talent, but that isn't the case. And sports fans in America want to know about winners, and they want to know about talent, and they want to know about stars, period, across the board.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Like our football team, no shade, at Missouri Southern, they were losing, okay? They were losing. And they got all the press, it didn't matter. It did not matter if they were losing or not, and we were winning. Like, we went to the NCAA tournament and everything, and it was barely a mention. We did have one guy there who did always write about women's sports. Sorry, my makeup is like dripping. We did have one guy. What's his name? Jim?
Yeah, Jim Henry.
He always wrote about us. Like, I even had an article, and I was a bench rider, but when they let me into the game and I was killing, he'll write an article about me. So he was dope. So you right. It has to be somebody. It has to be the men who are in it to take charge and to write something about it. I mean, it's Joplin. Like, these colleges are in small towns. There's barely anything going on. Why not, highlight the women's basketball team? Same thing with some of these WNBA teams. Like, I saw an old interview of you, Chasity. It was years ago. You were talking about how Atlanta was kind of missing out because they weren't promoting the Atlanta Dream, when they could promote the Atlanta Dream, they could promote all the other teams, but they were just not promoting it. And you were like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, because Atlanta is a city I love my Black people in Atlanta, but Atlanta is a city of welcoming, female Black athletes. But if they don't know about them and the media isn't pushing the team, then you aren't going to have people in the stands.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we do have a question from a blog. It says, when feeling low or feeling like you want to give up, what are things you do to keep your mind strong?
Mm.
I know me, I pray and meditate.
Yeah, I mean, my faith is strong. That's why I started the God Child podcast. That's why I wrote my book. I wanted to show people that I went through a lot of challenges as a former pro, and as a collegiate athlete. And I just know that a higher power is everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that's taboo. And, someone was speaking to me about the God's Child podcast, and I spoke to you about it, having you on the show. Like, it's something outside of my element or outside of coaching or outside of basketball, because I'm talking about spirituality and the journey and the law of attraction and those different types of things. But I saw it evolve in my life, like when I had absolutely no control. And as a professional athlete, you always feel like you have control. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had those times in my life where it was like, I didn't have control. And so I that's where my faith stepped in, or times I wanted to give up. I had a friend commit suicide after we went to
Wow.
the when we first got drafted in the first league, because I actually played in both leagues, ABL and WNBA. I had a friend commit suicide, and that really sent me back. And that was before athletes talked about mental health and speaking to therapists. So my faith has been really strong, and so I do believe in having a higher power, and because sometimes you just don't have control. And so that's why I want to share, the different interviews and share my thoughts and opinions through the God's Child podcast and my book. So it's definitely my faith. That's what keeps me going.
Yes, I think faith is huge, huge, especially for if you're going away from school, or having that distance. You don't have family. Sometimes it's just you until you make those connections with your teammates and things like that. Having faith and praying and just kind of taking that time to yourself is very important, because a lot of times stuff you're going through, it may seem simple, it may seem like minor things you can kind of fix and get through, but if you don't have that faith and take that time just to yourself and kind of pray, you do find yourself lost.
Yes. Okay, so it's 2:00. Can I start this over? I just want to try one more time to get Teeth in. So I'm going to cut this live off.
Okay.
Whatever you want, Natasha, I'm here. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Let's restart it. Everybody, if y'all on here, just check us back. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back. We had a few technical difficulties, so now we're gonna try again to get LaTice, Jasmine. So I'm gonna try, because it's supposed to be 4. They're supposed to let 4 people come on. So I'm gonna try to add everybody now. I'm gonna add one by one. Okay, I got you on here, Teeth.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna let all 4 of us get on here or not, but
They
I
just
hope
let
so.
4 people. That's what they said, 4. Okay, we got 3. One more, please. Come on, Instagram. Where's Jazz at? I just added her.
Where's Jazz? Come on, Jazz.
I know. It's like it's kicking one of us out each time.
So, Tease, while we waiting on Jazz.
Jazz is probably watching like me. I guarantee she's probably watching like me. Like I'm doing everything I can to get back on. I guarantee you she is.
They let 4, I promise. I saw 4 people. So, okay, I want to know what was it like transitioning? Oh my God, they not letting her join, y'all.
I told you.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna switch y'all out when we have a combo, and then I'm gonna bring you back in. That's how we're gonna have to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to know. We talked about women. Let me just hop you on. So we were talking about how women's sports is not getting like as much press as male sports, and how I feel like it's discriminatory because there's no reason for them to do that. What's your take on that?
Honestly, it's just like that, like Jazz and Chastity was saying earlier. The exposure is unfortunately not going to be there because we don't have a lot of people, males, in my opinion, willing to step up and kind of take the rap for us as much as we do for them. When I say that, I mean, like, we promote men's basketball just as much as other men do. Unfortunately, they don't do the same for us. The funny thing is, a lot of guys that I've played with over the years, they learn from a woman. They learn from a older sister or aunt or something like that, or mom. But unfortunately, they just don't, step up and say, hey, I think that you guys should support women's basketball just as much as, I do.
Right,
So,
right. So I want to transition this convo to talk about what happened in Norman High School.
Norman High School.
So there was an announcer at a girls' basketball game in college. I mean, high school. Sorry. So they were like in the middle of like a championship, and the announcer saw them kneeling, and it's mostly black girls. He saw them kneeling, and then he was calling them the N-word. He was like, these N-words, this and this and that. And it went viral because I guess he didn't know that his mic was on, even though he was an announcer. And so they just recently came out and said like they felt dehumanized, they felt bad, but they had to win a championship, and so they couldn't really deal with that. And I felt really bad for them, and I want to know, as far as black girls, how do you feel we are expected to perform? Like, I wrote this in an article. I was like, I'm expected as a lawyer when I was in law school to be in a racist, and was expected to be in a racist institution, but also perform. And so I feel like they were forced to do that too, and they're only, teenagers. And it's been, y'all haven't seen that yet?
No,
I
I'm
haven't.
well aware of it. I stay
Oh,
on
okay.
everything sports, everything women's basketball too. But yeah, I was aware of it. It just took me back to just growing up in the South. Like I said, um, my biggest thing, and I know we have a huge cancel culture. I don't know if you guys saw, Myers Leonard from Miami just got traded to OKC because he made a racist comment about Jews playing a video game on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, the owner obviously of Miami Heat is Jewish, but that's another story. Like there's a cancer culture for what people are saying in this time and day. Do I agree with people losing their jobs? And we see the head coach at Creighton who used the analogy of everyone has to stay on the plantation, boys. We got to keep 2 feet in. It just reminded me of growing up in the South, and this is the way some, especially older white males, talk. This is their vocabulary. This is how they speak. And when I'm on panels and talking about social injustice, it really starts at the home, and the way most white Americans allow people in their family to use these types of, misogynist statements, racial slurs. Oh, Jazz is here. Great. Jazz made it. It just starts at home. I don't know how you guys were raised, but I know raised in our home, when we said certain things, whether it was white, black, if it was hateful, you just didn't say that. You got in trouble for saying those things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started playing AAU, I was one of the 2 black girls on an all-white team. So I was able to immerse myself in their culture. I was going to their homes, eating. I was on the road with them. They were coming to pick me up because my parents couldn't afford it. I was just like LeBron James. When I went to a white people's house and I saw the food in the pantry, like they had a pantry, I was in shock. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, they're like, Dad, have whatever you want. Oh, they didn't even tell me that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I was there, but then, I also heard the way their uncles and people spoke at the games and what they said. And it was just outright, this is what they said. This is how they speak. And so just hearing that on, he forgot his mic was on. Like I said earlier, I majored in communications. They warn us all the time, your mic sometimes can be on. You can't really talk in between breaks, keep it clean, whatever you're going to say. For me,
Right.
it was just like they are this is how they speak and this is what they think. And now with social media, on the phone, everything's recorded, everything goes viral, and people are seeing like how people truly feel. And it's time for white America to really start stepping up. It's not our job to teach them, but it's their job to teach themselves that like what we're saying is wrong. There's a problem with what we're saying and how we talk and how we use racial slurs and the vocabulary that they're so used to getting away with. It's just a part of their norm.
It
Yeah.
really is. I feel like that's kind of crazy because when I was in high school, first of all, my high school was 99% black, and most of the people that worked there were black. I really didn't have any. I never was called the N word in high school or college, and so for if I would have found out that they called me that and that we went viral, we're talking about minors. So now everybody knows that what high school they go to. It's just crazy. I'm thinking about it on that spectrum. For him, he went on there and he said, "I'm not racist. I just didn't take my insulin." He said, "I have diabetes," and I'm like, "No, sir. You cannot call these girls the N word and then blame it on your insulin or not having insulin."
Wow. Honestly, for me, when it comes to the girls, to kind of answer that question for the kids, we unfortunately have to be professional. They have to go out and they still have to win a game. They have to prove them wrong. That's the biggest thing. As a black person, every day that somebody's looking at you, no matter what you're doing in your life. So the biggest way to go about your life is to prove when they say you can't do something, they call you the N-word, prove them wrong. And another way, I feel like for the coach, I have players on my team right now at the college level who do not like to stand for the national anthem. Fine, you have your rights. But in order for me to protect them, I send them to the locker room or I send them to the hallway right next to our bench so that they can go off to the side. There's nobody sitting, there's nobody kneeling. So I protect my players. And I feel like that's something that us as coaches, we have to do because everybody has a right to feel how they feel and do what they want to do. But did they win the game? Because I'm not aware of that. So,
Yeah,
They
so
won.
they
They won.
became the champion.
They won the game. Well,
so then there you
how
go.
black
That
women
just
gonna
proves it.
step up and win the game.
There you go. Exactly. So that at the end of the day, that's all you need to do. That's it.
No, I'm very
So
proud of the way they handled it. I'm very proud of the way they, spoke out. I'm proud of the people that supported them, their parents, and that community that really got behind them. But it's
right.
just so unfortunate. And that's the thing that I know it irritates all of you guys. It's just when white people do stuff, the excuses that are made or that they use instead of saying, you know what, I grew up and my dad talked like this, my grandfather talked like this, my uncles talk like this, and I see that there's something wrong with this, but it's a learned behavior. Just call it what it is. But until they start doing that, it's not going to get any better. So if he loses his job, great. If firing people and people are losing their jobs, if that's where it hits, especially white males, you hit them in the pocket, then that's where change is made. But at the end of the day, they come up with these excuses. It's just terrible.
And I think
Right.
that's the biggest part is the excuses. Like you talking about insulin and
Yeah.
like in health issue, like and he knows that's not the reason. Like he knows he talks like that, like because you just like that for it to just come out that easy. Like that's just not something you just randomly said today. You were like, "Oh, they're kneeling. Let me say this." Like that's your normal conversation. When you see that every day
Right.
on TV, when you would see Colin Kaepernick and you would see all these athletes standing for social injustice and things like that. That's what you normally say, and you just happen to be at work and you forgot to cut your
That's
mic
it.
off
That's
and
it.
you got caught. So I agree with what everything you all said, but it's really the reasoning and the excuses for me that are like mind blowing. It's
This is
like
baffling. It is
crazy.
baffling.
And like you said, it would make everything. It won't make it better.
It won't make it better.
However, if you could just take the blame, you take what you've done, own it, and let's work to move on. But when stuff like this happens, it's like They do it. They want us to own it for them. They want us to fix it for them, us to give them all the resources and help them learn about different things and why you shouldn't. And then he says, I'm working on taking that language out my vocabulary. Well, why is it there? Like, why are we like, why is that language in your vocabulary? And so like, it's just like things like that, that makes this whole thing so much more important. And the reason why we have these conversations and things like that, and why we're so passionate, is because that's really what's happening in the real world. And
Yeah, I
that's the
totally
unfortunate
agree.
part.
My thing just went off. So I'm glad you said that, because the Papa John's, the guy who used to be, well, Papa John's, who I guess they kicked him off of his board, he said the same thing. He said for the last 10 months, he's been working to get that word out of his vocabulary. And it's like, why were you even saying that anyway? You know, why, you know, I think that, because I do a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion training, and people aren't owning up to the fact that they are racist. Like, white people think that once they say Black Lives Matter, or once they put up a little black square on Instagram, that they're anti-racist or that they're an ally. And it's like, no, you're in the infant stage. So we've been learning about y'all our whole life, because society is a white society, and y'all haven't learned anything. So you're so far beyond not being racist. Like, you're so far beyond that, and I don't understand why. I mean, it's entitlement. I feel like when you're successful, you can say stuff like that because you feel like, well, my business is doing well, so obviously we don't have a diversity problem, or, you know, I have a multi-million-dollar company. Or even with him, he kind of felt, the guy at the Norman High School, I felt like he felt like some sort of superior energy over the girls, like just because they're in high school. But I saw those girls talk, they're just like us. Like, when we were in high school, we knew who we wanted to be, we knew what we wanted to do, we had goals, and we hit them. So I think it's a dehumanizing thing where it's like, I think that these people are less than me. I think that these people aren't on my level, and so I get to talk down to them and call them whatever words, N-words, or whatever. So let's talk about the WNBA's role in social justice. So there's been a lot of different stuff. Maya Moore, I know she took off for last year, and she was actually here in Missouri trying to get a guy out. She ended up getting him out, and then she married him. So that was like a nice story with that. But I do remember, if y'all remember back when Colin Kaepernick first was kneeling, I feel like the WNBA players, a lot of them were the only people that was like standing in solidarity with him. Like, even some big name NBA players weren't doing that. They were like, well, that's his thing, he can do that. What's your take on that?
Because we're not afraid. Because what do we have to lose realistically? Like, what else do we have to lose? Nothing. But men, they feel like they have so much to lose. So the LeBron James and all those other guys, they don't want to step up at that moment. They wait until you get enough of them together to say, okay, you know, Carmelo Anthony, I love that guy to death. That's one of my biggest allies. I love that guy. He will step up for anybody. He doesn't care. He had nothing to lose, honestly, at that point, and he was still trying to get back into the NBA, but he didn't care. He still was doing whatever it took for anybody. But for women, I mean, it was easy for them, in my opinion.
Jazz?
And I think for like women, especially when we're looking at the WNBA and like who they stand for, what they stand for, they've made a lot of these things known way, like before, like Colin Kaepernick. We kind of knew what they stood for and those things. And so I think when we look at the WNBA, like, they want people to have their back when it comes to, like, when we're talking about money and, like, you know, having that support, having the same things that, you know, maybe the NBA has. So I think when they saw that, you know, Colin Kaepernick just needed someone else to have his back, they were like, this is our time right here. You know, like, that was their moment for them to step up and just have his back and represent him, where it kind of seemed like everyone was kind of not necessarily turning their backs, but what we were seeing on social media and their actions weren't adding up, because we can see all the posts that you're writing. We can see all the support that you're giving them on Twitter, because we all retweet it and everything like that. But we want you to take the same knee that he's taking it, and take it as many times as he's doing. You know, like I
Right.
think once everything starts to kind of be questioned for some people, like, you know, your money, your endorsements, things like that, then you're like, okay, let me kind of maybe step back. Where Colin Kaepernick, he was like, nope, I'll have to step up again. So I think from the WNBA, they seen that he needed some support, that he needed someone to have his back, and they didn't second guess.
I agree. What about you, Chastity?
I just think black women on every level of success, whether they're lawyers, whether they're working in corporate, whether they're in the WNBA, they cannot separate being a woman from their careers. And I won't say 100%, but the natural instinct of most women is to support their brothers, to support, men. Just they do it naturally. And also, there's a negative connotation when women get to a certain level of power that why are they not standing up for social issues in general? Men can have a high level of success and not speak on any injustice, any social issue, whether it's family, whether it's personal, whether it's anything. But women, because of the stereotypes that you have on women, they're supposed to be caring. They're supposed to be they're supposed to have sympathy. You know, we have those stereotypes on us. So I believe that to a certain and for the majority of us, we care. Women do care. Like women care at a different level than men. I won't say care, but how they show that they care.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's huge. In the WNBA, I mean, I've been a part of it so long. There's a lot of strong black women who've been raised by strong black women, and they've seen what the strong black women in their lives have done as far as it goes as a supporting men, whether they're in jail, out of jail, doing something wrong, doing something good. Like they just support them.
That's
I grew
so
up like
true.
grandma, like, why are we, look, he just did this. Why aren't we supporting him? Oh, there's excuses. So I don't know. Like, it's just something that we naturally have been taught to do as black women. But also we are, and we're intelligent. We've most all of the WNBA players have graduated, they have their degrees. So they have a certain level of education that they understand what is going on in the world, business wise, politically, and as far as families go. So they're ahead of most of I won't say ahead of all of them, but they're ahead of the game in a lot of these issues. And they know that they have a platform. And like Jazz said, like both of you said, we don't really have anything to lose, but we're smart enough that you can't hold it in. It's just like, no, I'm well aware of what's going on. I don't need my agent or anybody to tell me because I've
That's
lived it. My
that's it.
mothers have lived it. My aunts have
Mm-hmm.
lived it. And I'm trying to make the path better for young women coming up after me, just like our mothers and our aunties and those that were trying to be successful, try to make the path more smoother for us.
Well, that's interesting you said that because I read somewhere that when women earn money, we don't spend it on ourselves. They saying like I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think they said like 70% of the money that we earn, we spend it on others, whether it's dependents, whether it's family, whatever. And they said that men mostly hold on to their own money. So like you said, it is something about women that like to give and like to hold people down. And then Jasmine, what you said that WNBA players won't support and they want people to have their back. And I think that that's kind of like a theme that I'm seeing. Like even with the high school players or with college players, with the ESPN playing women's sports or with women getting paid. All of these things are just like women are saying like, hey, have our back, specifically black women, because we need the money more. We come from a lower deficit as far as like average household income and stuff like that, and we give more. So like me, I do so much pro bono work. I do need more. However, white males typically get paid more than black women in certain things. Now with sports, it depends on what sport it is. The top male will get paid more than the women. So I think it's kind of like a running theme where I wish that we had more support on all levels when it comes to women's sports because we're enduring racism at the same rate. We're enduring police brutality. There's a lot of black women that have been killed by police. Mass incarceration. A lot of people don't look at mass incarceration when it comes to women because the population is so much smaller than the male population. But if you look at the percentage of Black women, it's a large percent of Black women that are affected by that. And a lot of them are wrongfully accused and stuff too. And then, like I said, the struggle, like that's why I asked y'all what was the transition. I feel like the transition from high school, because everybody on the live needs to understand, y'all, the stats spoke for themselves. So I looked at your high school stats, I looked at your high school stats, I looked at yours, I looked at college. Yeah, I seen it. Yeah, P, what you was 20 points a game? 22 points a game.
Hey, listen, don't go that back. That's too far back. I can't even remember, honestly. And you know, the funny thing is, you know, for me, I have a question for Chasity, honestly. I'm getting off topic just a little bit, but still dealing with basketball.
That's fine.
With this new generation of kids, it's a little hard to get them to understand what hard work and dedication really looks like. Mm-hmm. And for me, I want to be able to show this video to my athletes, and I want them to hear it from someone who's done it. You know, myself, I've played at almost every level, and now I'm coaching at the college level. Jazz played at, you know, high school, college, and then professional overseas, and then you've played at a major Division I school. Mm-hmm. Then you went on to play, you know, in the WNBA, and now you're coaching in the WNBA. So my question to you is this: what would be some great advice for them as freshmen, sophomore athletes that want to move on to a big Division I school or a big Division II school in terms of working hard to achieve those goals athletically? Because for the most part, most of my athletes are good academically. And I have a few that want to move on after college as well. So what would be some advice that you would give to them?
I would just say, like I said earlier, I thought I was really good in high school. And I didn't have social media. And I didn't have a lot of people hyping me up. But now these young kids, you know, they have social media. They get the likes. And then they think they're really good. And they see, like, what I want to express to these young kids that I've worked out with, and I try to tell them, what you see on social media is it's like the fantasy world. You know, you're going to see a little bit of the workout that shows, we don't even know if they were in the gym an hour. You know, you can go in the gym, get a great picture, get a great video with a great move, and they could have been in there 5 minutes. You know, and you and I, all of us know it takes more than 5-minute workouts, you know. So I encourage these kids to not only when they're searching for parents, when they're searching for trainers, they got to get trainers that are going to hold them accountable and that are going to be willing to make them work and say the hard things that their parents won't tell them. I can't tell you how many parents come and say, Chasity, go talk to my kid. Like, they'll listen, and I'm telling the parents, no, it's really the parents. The parents get caught up in social media just as much as these young kids. My parents, I would call my mom and be like, oh, coach is being mean to me. Should do what the coach said. No, my coach is running me to death. Well, you lazy. Get out here, get outside, go outside and run. You know?
Thank you.
Like, you know, these parents, I can't tell you how so many friends call me in college, and parents are calling like, my kid needs to be playing. Why is my kid on the bench? But their kid won't sprint. Their kid won't run hard on the court. You know, so to make it on any level and not just basketball, young adults have to understand there is a work ethic. And it's not the work ethic like, I know you have your kids that are great. They're great in academics. What sets you apart and what will get you a scholarship, and if you have enough talent that will get you in the pros, is doing what you don't want to do.
Come on.
When you don't feel like doing it.
Yes.
That's what separates the players. I tell people all the time, I'm going to tell you now, I hated lifting weights. I hated trying to get that mile time.
Yes.
Listen, weights, mile time, it's a wrap.
Don't nobody want to do that.
See you at 5 a.m. Friday morning.
Listen, right.
Study all. you know.
Uh,
And so at the end of the day, I mean, but it's with anything. It's if you want to be corporate, if you want to be the, if you want to be on social media, be a big influencer, you got to get up and do things when you don't feel like it.
right.
And that's what these young adults don't understand. When the going is good and they feel good, they're going to have a great workout. But they got a stomach ache. Mama said I have a stomach ache. I ain't got to work out today. Like, what?
And honestly, that's it right there. I think the logic of the parents, they're not being realistic with their children. They're feeding us this fake reality, like social media, that social media reality you just talked about. It's not true, and I don't have an issue with parents calling me with why my child isn't playing, because I nipped that in the bud at the beginning of the season. But when it comes to when you go recruiting your athletes for WNBA, like, what are some aspects that you look for in your players? Like, do you watch what they're doing on the bench? Do you watch, what they're doing, like, outside of just on the basketball court? Because I think that a lot of them get that. They don't understand what I'm saying to them when I say that. They watch everything.
Yes, listen, and I want to tell all young athletes like that. Your peers watch your social media as far as your workouts. The coaches and where you want to go, they watch how you interact with your coaches, how you run off the court when your coach takes you out of the game. When there's a turnover, do you stop or do you run back to the other end? What kind of shots are you taking? How is your attitude? Are you a leader? Are you pulling the team together? Or are you standing over, pointing the finger? Like, they watch everything. The coaches watch, and that's what I was saying about scouting. Because of COVID, I haven't been able to have an eye test on a lot of the future draft picks. But when I went to watch the SEC tournament, players that I thought were like, oh, this player, I love this player, and I'm watching this player in person. I'm like, really? It's a lot different when you in the gym and you watching them interact and you watching them go to the bench. Everything looks good on television. Everything looks good on social media. So at the end of the day, I just want these young athletes to know, like, you want the scholarship before you put in the work. I think today people are looking, and this isn't anything in life, you're looking at the end result instead of, like, okay, who do I need to talk to see where I need to get? How do I need to reach that end result? And I was always, like, listening to my coaches. Whenever I played AAU, I talked with the best players, find out what are you guys doing? How can I get better at rebounding? Like, I was asking questions, to build myself up. So if an opportunity came, I was ready. But these young adults now, they're just looking or listening to their parents, and they're like, okay, I'm on the team. I got these stats. I'm going to get a scholarship. And it's just not like that.
Fact. I wanted to comment on what you said, because everything Chastity's saying, she dropping gems. So if you show
I'm
this to
telling
your
you, I'm
players,
loving everything. Thank you.
Let your players know.
They gonna watch this.
Yes, and I'm gonna go talk to her players too, because like you said, the process. People have to understand the process. You have to be committed to the process, not the outcome, because the outcome may or may not come. Now, I'm not saying have goals, but if something happens when everything is going good, great. Okay, your coach is nice to you today, or your coach is playing you more today. Your teammates are nice to you. You making shots, but if you're not making shots, that does not mean you just turn down or you have an attitude. Or if you don't play, for example, me, like I said earlier, I was riding the bench heavy in college, and I had the attitude of I'm with the team. My purpose was I wanted our team to do well. So regardless of if I was playing or not, I was not going to have an attitude about not playing. That wasn't my attitude. My attitude was I wanted to get better every single day. And that's what I did. So Jasmine helped me with that. Teach helped me with that. We all used to help each other on stuff, giving tips and stuff like that. And so it also happens like you're a good coach. But if you have a bad coach or you have a coach that doesn't really want to develop a player, then that's one thing. But if you have a great coach that wants to help you to develop, you can't have an attitude because you're not playing, or you can't have an attitude because you're on the bench. When I was on the bench, I used to be loud every single day. I used to scream. I used to cheer. I used to do everything. One story I had, and Inky Johnson says that focus on the process, not the outcome, because he's a player who he was going to go to the NFL, but then he got injured and his arm, like he can't use his arm anymore. And he said if he would have just been connected to the outcome, that at that point, you might as well, give up everything. And that's what it is. It's like bad stuff happens. So one time I was, so we had a coach named Coach Jones who was filling up the water bottles. And he was like, hey, Scruggs, could you fill up the water bottles for me? I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm going to fill up the water bottles and I'm going to fill them up with ice. I'm going to make sure so when Jasmine get off the court and when LaTice get off the court, they going to have some cold ice water.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. He was like, oh, Scruggs, you filling up. I'm like, y'all crying about filling up a bottle of water? Like, the arrogance. I'm like, I want my teammates to drink water. So what? Like, I just feel like the humility. And that's just something I was taught because my family is like that. So I didn't have to learn that. But like you said, stuff like that, Chasity just said she's looking at everything as a coach and as somebody who has been in the WNBA. I think they should take some advice.
Overall,
I really hope they do.
Yeah, overall, these young kids have to understand that they have to do the little things. And no one wants to do the little things anymore. I mean, that's just point blank, period. And I don't, I mean, parents have a tough job. I don't have any kids. I have 8 nieces and nephews who I love dearly, and I'm hard on them. Like, they know when they come out, Chasity, she don't play, but then I'm a big kid at the same time. But, I mean, it's just, that's never going to go away. I don't care, 2030, 2040, like, you have to do the little things. Yes. You have to do the little things to be successful. And that's what young adults need to find out, especially young athletes. Everybody feels like, okay, if I score this many points, I'm going to get a scholarship. Like, coaches have enough, they can scout enough people that can score, but who's going to rebound? Who can make a pass? A lot of these coaches are getting these kids and they can't pass the basketball. They can't pass the basketball. Like, they can't do little things. And, then they ended up getting fired. But they getting kids who, just don't want to do the little things anymore. And that goes across the board in all sports. So I just want to encourage young athletes to, focus on doing the little things. Learn from your mentors. Learn from your trainers. Like, you can't get an attitude when somebody tells you the truth. Like, the truth hurts. You know what I'm saying? I'm a coach. I'm a pro. The truth never felt good to me, you know what I'm saying? But it knocked me down and it got me right back where I needed to go to continue to be successful. And that's another thing I would say, like, a lot of these young athletes, when people are being honest with them and really trying to coach them, they're taking it personal. Instead of the parents being behind people who want to see them succeed, the parents are saying, you're mentally challenging my kid. My kid, then they're coddling the kid, and then everybody's a mess when the kid is 22 or 33 and recording a conversation that should have stayed private and putting it out on social media. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I want to encourage all the coaches that coach these young athletes to stay true to who you are. And I know, like, my coaches tell me all the time, Chaz, we can lose our job. And that's why I have a hard time now whether I'm going to be a good coach or not, because I feel like it's my responsibility, whether they're pro, whether they're high school, middle school, to hold them accountable and coach them to their potential. Because if we don't, we're hurting them.
Exactly. And that's one thing I've been trying to tell them for the longest. It's like, I'm going to coach you so that you're ready for the next level. I'm not helping you by allowing you to stay comfortable and stay the same player as you did your senior in high school. You have to elevate each year, and one of my other biggest issues is the fact that I have players who I see them playing multiple positions, but they don't want to work out. They want to play. They want to be a guard, but you can't shoot the ball. But and that's another question I had too. Like, when it comes to recruiting players, knowing that when you leave a junior college and you move on to a 4-year university, you're probably not going to get to play the same position. So if you're a solid 3-4, then you need to be able to be versatile and play both positions. Otherwise, if you just get stuck at playing the 4 and they already have solid, power forwards on their team, you're not going to get much playing time. Right. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. The game's changing. It's not as position oriented as it used to be, and
Right.
so that allows for players have to be versatile. And that's where I say it goes back to the little things. A lot of these trainers that kids are getting with, um, they're not teaching them how to dribble. They're not teaching them how to pass. They're not teaching them how to handle the ball in traffic. They're not teaching them the correct way to rebound, but they're teaching them one move that they will probably use one time in a game
That's
if
it.
they
That's it. That's
if they
it.
get in the game. You know,
That's it.
so at the end of the day, I learned the fundamentals of the game. And people love to say, well, Chastity, you were talented. That's why you stayed in the league so long. But when I had to ride the bench, when the coach, I felt like the coach, as we've all gone through this, the coach don't like me. You know, the coach don't like me and all this kind of stuff. When I got my 2 or 3 minutes, I got you 3 rebounds. I got a
There we
steal.
go.
I had an impact on the game because I understood the fundamentals of the game.
Mhm.
I could catch a basketball with 2 hands. I could rebound a basketball with two. I could box out. So I think, there's a fine line. I love all the great moves that these kids are learning. I love the Euro step. But if you can't make a left-handed layup, but you can give me a Euro step, I'm confused, you know?
I agree.
So at the end of the day, that's what it really boils down to. And yeah, they definitely have to be versatile because you never know what's going to happen. And now with the transfer rule, you think you're going
Oh
in and
man.
you're going to be playing, somebody come in and transfer. So you gotta be able to play defense. You got to be able
Mhm.
to stay in front of somebody. You got to be able to catch the ball. You got to know the fundamentals. And that's what I mean by really concentrating on the little things.
Hey Jazz, what would you say was your main thing, your main focus? Because um, so T, did you see that Jazz had an article written about her last year in the Joplin Globe?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I saw that, and he said that you were one of the most successful 2-year players in Missouri Southern history. So, what is the mindset of somebody, since Teasa's going to have 2-year girls that go over after 2 years, what is the mindset that you have going into your junior and senior year, and then the same thing, the transition, I guess, the work ethic to get into overseas?
So my mindset was I I didn't like to run. I didn't like to condition or anything like that or lift weights, but I had in my mind that every drill we did, if it was practice, if I was doing it by myself, I was competing. Okay, so if we were in practice and we had to run, I'm competing with whoever I'm running with. So I need to finish before you finish. And that however it gets done, it's gonna get done. But I just need to finish first. And my whole mindset with that was I know if I'm competing with someone, then I'm working my hardest because I don't want them to outwork me. So however I gotta get that done, that's how I'm
Come
gonna get
on.
it done. And my my biggest thing was I know what I wanted. I know what it took for me to get here. And
Yeah.
I knew going back wasn't an option. So I was going to do whatever it took, whatever I needed to get there. And the biggest thing was for me to be successful, for me to play, for me to be the best player that I wanted to be, I had to outwork my teammates. And I wasn't outworking them for me to look better. I was outworking them for me to be better, for me to be a better basketball player. Um, and I think for athletes, I think once we understand that we're in practice and we're there to compete to get each other better, not for us to look better than each other, then that goes farther than a lot of things. Because even, some of the kids that I coach, I find that they want to be rougher on their teammates than they are on someone they're playing against. And I'm like, you just knocked your teammate over last night, but you're helping someone up off the court. What is this about? And so that's, that was one of my biggest things, and what I'm trying to get some of my athletes to understand now, is that you got to be able to outwork your teammates and understand that when y'all all step on the court together, y'all out there to do one job, and that's to work together to be the best team that you can be. So for me, it was my work ethic, and I knew if I held myself accountable, and I worked harder than my opponent, then I knew what the outcome was.
And I can vouch for her. And everybody who's watching, I can vouch when I tell you.
So can I.
I got a story. I got a funny story. We had to do the 5-mile run. You already know what I'm going to say.
Listen,
We had to
the
do a
5-mile run
5-mile
ain't.
run.
But what was my
I
mentality?
was so mad at you.
Let me tell you.
She made me look so bad.
Listen, because I wasn't going no further than that day. It wasn't no further than that day.
Let me tell y'all what happened. So we have to do a 5-mile run. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, first of all. Okay? So we start running. Jasmine start off slow, okay? She start off kind of bad. Let's be clear. But she just said competitive nature. So I was kind of like, I don't know why. I could run long distance with no problem. Y'all remember that? So
Yes.
I was like a whole lap in front of Jazz. All of a sudden, she laps and we together. And we dying. Like, we're literally dying. And we sprint like the last 200 meters together, like making noise and everything to the finish line. And everybody was like, how did they just do that? Like, how did Jasmine, number one, just catch up? And number two, how did they got all this energy after the 5 miles? And that's the complete thing. Like, when you next to your teammates, it's nothing better than that. When you playing, if me and T in the paint and we tussling and we doing that, it's nothing better than that. Like, you can't recreate that. And that's what I want when I'm talking about focusing on the process. That's the process. The best moments with my teammates were in practice, not just because I'm on the bench.
Yeah.
That's where games are won. That's where victory is won. So it's not about the end goal. It's about those little victories, those little times with your teammates. It translates. Like, I'm just gonna say that it translates. Like, I use that same competitive nature in my field when I'm in the courtroom, whatever the case may be. It translates, and I feel like I feel like all the women on this live are excellent in what they do. They top notch, and that's because of the same competitive nature. I wish, like, because I'm a fan of all three. I wish that it was a way that, because as far as like y'all resume and abilities and athletic abilities, I wish that we didn't have this whole women versus men thing. Because I believe, and I want to ask y'all, if y'all were men playing at the same level, achieving the same things, do you think that maybe society would look at you better, or do you think that you would have more success?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously we have better platforms and better opportunities if we were male. Now I don't know, we still be black male, so there's another, so there's a thin line.
Another stigma there. Yeah.
There's another stigma there, but at the end of the day, I think there would be a lot more respect.
Right.
I think we wouldn't be questioned as much or ignored as much or not celebrated or overlooked. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Yeah, we wouldn't be overlooked, definitely.
See?
Exactly what you said. Exactly what you said. The fact that we get overlooked, for me, I know I wasn't in the first one when you guys were kind of discussing the transition, but for me, it was difficult to transition from as a high school coach to the collegiate level because I was so young. I was 29, and I'm a black woman trying to transition after only coaching, I think, 3 seasons as an assistant coach at the high school level. So you already get overlooked because you don't have the resume. You don't have the experience that they want you to have at the collegiate level, unfortunately. But you have the experience because you played at the collegiate level. You understand it as a player, but they don't get that. They're looking at you like, no, it's not enough experience. So for me, I was blessed enough to have a really good friend, Kelby Fritz, our old teammate. And that's why they say it's not about what you know, sometimes about who you know. And she actually, helped me out and put a good word in for me at the school that I ended up coaching at my first year on a collegiate level. So I was overlooked, honestly. So
yeah,
I agree.
I just want to say to anybody listening too, I feel your pain on that. When I retired, they were telling me the same thing you were telling you at 39. Well, you don't have coaching experience, or you've never been recruiting, and this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, I just want to tell those listening before Jazz speaks that we are qualified. And I think that was one thing that helped me with my confidence as just an athlete or coming from a small town. My parents and my grandmothers instilled in me that I was qualified to do anything. So when you hear these no's and you hear like the quote unquote, you don't have enough experience, don't let that derail you from the end goal. And I know sometimes I was really hard on myself. I mean, I have been at the top of my game, but that really started messing with my confidence when coaches kept telling me, well, you don't have the experience or you don't know this. And it's kind of playing mind games. I'm like, didn't I just play for 20 some years? Like,
Right,
the game
right.
is only so, it's only so big. Like, so I want to say that on any level for Black women, I think we get that a lot. We have a lot of challenges, but mentally for us, we have to stay confident in who we are. We have to see the bigger picture and understand that I just wish people would tell us, no, we're not ready to hire you, instead of
Yes.
saying you don't have this, this, or this, or just
Right.
making up
Exactly.
excuses. So I want to tell those
Lying.
that are listening, like, you got to shake that dirt off your shoulder, keep moving, and wait till you meet the right person that's going to say, you know what, Chassie, I like what you said. When you mentioned this, how about you come, blah, 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 and then it goes from there. We just need an
Facts.
opportunity. And
Facts.
so do our Black men, not just Black women, but our Black men as well. Because I think
Absolutely.
they get down on themselves too, because I mean, we need to be nurtured. We don't have the privilege. We're not allowed in certain arenas where we can network with the people that give us that give those jobs. So mentally, I just want to encourage everyone to stay confident and just wait. And you got to pray. That's why I say, if you keep the faith, God give you that divine moment. You better be ready to take it.
That's right. That's it right there. You got to be ready for it.
Yeah. So, Jazz, do you
I
think
mean,
if you were a male, would it be
yeah,
different?
absolutely. I mean, because you see it now when it happens. Like Chastity and LaTice said that we're all told we don't have the same experience, but a male goes in for the same opportunity, and them just saying what they've done and what they've accomplished, that's enough. But we got to bring the resume, the video, and stuff from high school and all the plaques and rewards, and that's not enough experience. You didn't coach enough, you didn't play enough. And so I think if we were men, I think in some aspects that would be enough sometimes.
I agree with that. I want to read this stat that I'm a part of this group called Diverse Representation, and they talk about this. And so they said 0% so Black women are 0% head coaches in the WNBA, 0% head coaches in U.S. women's soccer, 0% U.S. coaches in head coaches in National Women's Hockey League, 0% NFL team CEOs and presidents, 2% NCAA athletic directors, 2% NCAA head coaches, 3% NCAA assistant coaches, 3% NBA presidents, and 25% WNBA team presidents. So I'm saying all that to say the reason why I know y'all telling the truth is because just look at the material. The material shows that they are not valuing Black women who have experience, who have education. Like you said, like Chastity said, we're all educated. So you can't say that that's not on our resume. So we have the education, we have the experience, we have the resume, everything like that. Yet, we are not seen in these high positions. And that's what I try to do. I try to work to make sure that this is not happening. Jasmine just had a baby 4 days ago.
Oh, the baby.
But yeah, basically, and then when I looked at Black men, so I do feel like Chastity said, Black men too, because although Black men are put on a pedestal at the player level, in the higher execs level, it's almost zero. Like, it's almost zero. So I think it's a racism issue. And then we have racism plus we're women. So it's hard. So that's why I'm saying, like, everything that you've accomplished, Chastity, everything that you accomplished, Teeth, everything that you accomplished, Jasmine, despite all of the things that are against you, is very, very inspirational. And I have not seen a conversation like this about Black women with Black women, and that's why I wanted to have it, because I think it's so important. Like, we literally surpass all of these issues and still find a way to thrive. So hopefully in the next 10 years, things change and y'all can inspire more people, and more women will become coaches. And I don't know what's your 10-year goal, but whatever it is, I'm behind you 100%.
Thank you.
I had y'all on here for a long time, over an hour and a half, and I meant to only do 30 minutes. But thank you for coming on. Do y'all have anything else to say, or anything to say about the stats before we go?
I just want to say that, my dad, I coached in the G League. I was one of the first female coaches in the NBA G League. And my dad had a talk with me. He was excited, but at the same time, he was just like, you can't teach them boys how to be men. And I said, Dad, no, we can have open conversation. I love my dad. I mean, he's come a long way. And, he was raised in the South, so he's a true Southern man, and I get it. I love my black brothers. And so we had the conversation. I said, Dad, why? I said, I don't want to, I know I can't teach them to be men. I said, I want to teach them how to be great basketball players. And I said, Dad, no one's ever asked me, you never questioned all the men coaches I had, whether they can teach me how to be a phenomenal young, not just young woman, but African American woman.
Yes.
They don't get these head coaching jobs to teach me how to be a woman. They get these head coaches jobs because they love basketball and they want to coach me on basketball, and they get to do just that.
Yes,
and I
their
said,
job.
in the realm of when I'm coach, it wasn't my dream. Oh, I want to have the opportunities to coach basketball and to coach athletes to the best of their ability. And I played on the pro level, so there's the NBA and the WNBA. So if I want to coach on the highest level, those are my opportunities, other than overseas.
Right.
But those opportunities aren't in the NBA, and they're not in the NCAA for men. But men can have the same opportunities to coach men or women if they desire to. My brother coaches guys. He's like, Chas, I will never coach girls. He's like, they're too much. I get it. I don't have that option. I can say, oh, you know what? I don't want to coach guys. They are too much. They pass gas. They curse. They scratch their balls all day. They're terrible. I can't deal with that for 2.5 hours or on the bus. I don't even have the option,
Right.
And so it just baffles me. And once I told my dad that, he said, you're right. I said, Dad, I want to coach them in those 4 lines on the basketball court. Outside of that, what they do in the locker room is the same thing my head coach had with me when he coached me. He was concerned about my women issues, my black female problems, what I had to do. I said, but he did have great assistance for that. Just like I can have some great, phenomenal black men as my assistant coaches that might want to mentor these young men.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I want to be a basketball coach and have opportunities just like the next male basketball coach.
Yeah. Jazz, what did you think about that? The fact that the diversity is non-existent when it comes to black women as head coaches, as owners, as CEOs, and as presidents, even though black women play all of these sports and excel in all these sports.
I mean, I'm glad the numbers are out because now we get to hold you accountable. Because now you see that there's not a lot of us, but those are the first players that you're recruiting. That's the first players that you want to come to your school and win you the championship and get you those wins and things like that. And so now that those numbers are out, and you can't say nothing when it's on paper, and it's saying that it's basically that it's non-existent. And so now it's either you want these players to come, but also sometimes getting someone to come to your school or even think about coming to your school, maybe having someone that looks like them, that they share a common interest, you know what I mean? Like they're able to talk about the same things and they can relate and stuff like that. So I think having those numbers out now, we get to hold some of these individuals accountable, and hopefully that opens up opportunities and resources for a lot of coaches and women like us.
Steve?
I agree. I think the biggest thing right now is the women who are in those positions continue to thrive, continue to be successful, And then that will continue to open up the door for the rest of us that want to, creep up and become, become coaches at that level. For myself, I've always, talked about coaching men because of how I was brought up. I was brought up with playing with guys my whole life, and I've always been able to play well and coach well and train men, at a higher level because I understand the game of basketball, no matter if it's male or female. So for me now, really stepping back at this age, I'm starting to realize that I can do more good with women than the men because I feel like the men, they have it all. They get everything. So now it's time for us to bring that knowledge to our women athletes and give them the same thing that the men get. You got these guys out here who go to trainers who get the assistance to help them get a better vertical, to help them get faster with their speed and all those different things. But what about the women? Like Chasity said earlier, they're lacking the ball handling. They're lacking the passes. They're lacking the left, being able to utilize both hands, left and right. So I feel like for me, it's just all about doing what I need to do as a coach and as a trainer, developing my athletes that come in my path, and for the coaches in front of me, for them to continue to be successful, so that when it's my turn, I can follow in their footsteps and continue to pave a way for the next generation.
That's such good advice, Tease, because I was thinking about that because I do advising, or so I'll do diversity training for corporations, but I have this thing where I want to do advising for athletes, and I made some connections with agents and even some players here in Kansas City, but I think I want to stick to women right now because like you said, the men, they have their own thing going on, and I don't want to have to fight to get in or fight to be considered knowledgeable. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Kind of the same question I asked y'all about would you be more successful or would you be taken more seriously? The same thing happens to me because I'm in a male dominated field, and now I'm trying to get into I've worked with people in sports and I've done things, but it's not what I want to do. What I really want to do is so much bigger, with social justice and with social responsibility and camps and things like that. But as a woman, I'm not taking it seriously. So I like what you said. Let's stick to women. If we can support each other, or we can support the Black women that are in high school and college and professional, and let's promote the WNBA. Let's go to the games. I feel like maybe we can kind of start that on our end. I'm not saying the whole world gonna stop, but it's kind of like the difference between asking for acceptance and maybe dealing with people who already accept you. I don't know. But I still feel like the biggest thing is we need more representation at the higher level. It shouldn't be it's so many men that coach in the WNBA. Like she said, so many men that coach in the NCAA. It's still, even in high school, we need them to hire more women, and we need them to hire more Black women and promote more Black women.
I just never understood that. I really never understood that. The fact that they think that a male is more equipped to coach a female than a woman is more equipped to coach a male. To me, that is just baffling. Yeah. Because you can't teach me how to be a woman. You can't really teach me how to play. When you play with men, it's a different game. Women playing with men, and men playing with men, women playing with women, and then men playing with women. So it's if when I go and play with men, I play different, because you have to prove a point to these guys that you deserve to be here. But then when you go and play with women, it's a different aspect of your game. So I just feel like for me as a coach, I would want them to understand that you need to respect me enough to allow me to coach females just as much you allow these men to coach males. And I just feel like the job should be more so, if you're going to do it that way, keep it across the board and allow women to coach women, men to coach men, and just leave it at that. But don't allow men to coach women and then we can't coach men.
Yeah.
Or women. They still coach.
Of course, or women.
Or
women.
Yeah, where do we fit in?
I definitely agree. And I like what you said, Natasha. I do think there are some pioneers. And when I got that opportunity to coach in the G League, I was ecstatic. And when I didn't get hired again, I knew I had done a damn good job. I knew I was very good at my job. I felt confident, like, like I was like, it's the same game. I went in thinking, okay, this is different this is a different type of basketball. So I had a huge learning curve. And then I'm coaching and I'm like, it's zone, it's man to man. It's horns, it's chase, it's early action. Like I'm like, okay, it's the same game.
Right.
X's and
That's it.
O's, it was still the same game. And so, that's why I said I think having a conversation with black men, like having that conversation with my dad, I think he was able to understand, like, you're right. Like you said, Tease, like, if men can coach women, women should have the opportunity. And like I say, all women, just like all men, cannot coach women. Some men cannot.
Right.
They run, Chaz, I don't know how you do it. So just like for females, all females, like Tease, you and I grew up playing with guys. I grew up in the South. I was around guys all the time. So when I coached the males, it was back like I was growing up and I was playing pickup as the only girl out on the court, like you probably were,
Yeah.
playing with the guys.
Absolutely.
So it was a comfortable environment for me. It wasn't something that was out of the norm. This is how I grew up my entire life. And so I won't say all women want to coach men or can coach men and be in that environment, but they should have the opportunity. But I've come to, like Natasha, I'm like, look, after you kicked me out, I knew I did a good job. I was like, I am not fighting. I'm too old now. Like maybe if I
There
was
you go.
29, I'd be like, ooh, I'm getting back in. I'm gonna prove to them I'm the best coach. I'm like, oh, okay, I got the WNBA. I played in it. They're allowing me to coach. I have an opportunity to be a head coach. That's my team we're playing. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
not that I'm not a fighter. I'm the biggest fighter there is. But at some point, what are you fighting for? Like, am I fighting to prove to them that I can coach? I had the
You already know you.
I did it. I did a great job, and it didn't go past that. But now I have opportunity in the WNBA where I have an opportunity to actually be a head assistant, to be a head coach, to be a GM. So what am I going to go over there and fight for? Which there are some women who are fighting, and I am their biggest supporters.
Me
And
too.
I'm hoping they make it. But I said, God, you put me in the right situation because I like to have. Choose your fight, choose the battle, and the WNBA, the women need great women coaches as well. So I'm glad to be where I am, and hopefully I can
So
move up.
I just want to add one more thing. Sorry. Just some advice for me as a young Black woman, second year coaching on the collegiate level for me. And I know Jazz probably wants to move up at some point as well. What would be some advice that you would give to us that would like to move on and coach as a head coach at the collegiate level and then move on to potentially coach in the WNBA? What would be some advice for us?
My first advice is what I started doing once I got in. I learned as much as I could from the head coaches. I started developing my playbook, my coaching philosophy, my style, and my system. And develop the relationship with the recruiters. I mean, that's one thing I can say. I don't know all the AAU teams and the coaches and have relationships with them, but those head coaches can call them up because, like, I'm recruiting. They're like, Chaz, they might not want to talk to you because you just got the job, because that's how it is in college.
Okay.
So I would just you have to learn to be uncomfortable. And that's what a lot of African Americans I find on any level in any type of successful field. I've been uncomfortable since I graduated high school,
Right.
as a Black female. It just is what it is. Going to NC State, going to the pros, hanging with people that have a lot of money, and I don't. I've been uncomfortable since I graduated. And that's the thing that I think holds not only Black females back, but Black males. We want to be in our comfort zone. We want to be allowed to be a Black American. And in certain arenas and certain places, you have to put on a mask. You have to learn how to be uncomfortable to get to the next level you want to be. And if you don't want to do that, then coach AAU and coach high school and be at peace. I think that's another thing. That's where I'm learning, like, where do I want my peace? Where do I want to fight? What battles do I want to fight? Because
Yeah.
we are good at what we do. Make no mistake about it. We are great coaches. We are great humans. We are great mentors. We are great, we're great people. So just have the X's and O's, have that playbook together. So when you get these interviews, when you get that divine opportunity and you're in that interview with an athletic director, this is my philosophy. This is my plan for recruiting. This is my playbook. This is the type of system I want. I want to share the ball. You have to be 100% confident in it. And Black people, because we've grown up this way, we've had to go with the flow. We've had to ad lib. When we got our opportunities, we had to kind of figure it out on the fly. But that doesn't work in some of those arenas. And that's where it's like, well, you didn't do well on the interview, or it's not that we didn't do well. We did what we were nurtured to do, or what we had the experience or the knowledge of what we could do, because we know the game.
Right.
But you got to play their game. So you got to come with all the X's and O's, your little playbook, look the part, get in your acting zone, and give it to them straight. But be, very, be very business-like about your goal and your desire as a head coach. That would be my biggest amount of advice.
Wow, that's
Thank
great advice.
Thank you.
Chasity,
I appreciate that.
thank you so much for blessing us with that, because
Yes.
my girls, they deserve it all, and I hope that they.
No, they do.
I wish them the best.
So
for them.
many of us do. Yeah, so many of us do.
Yeah.
And so that's why I rock with Natasha. I'm glad she came on my podcast. I'm going to have you guys on there.
That was an amazing show.
Yeah, it was a great show. Thanks, Natasha.
Oh, yeah. I know it's time to go.
And
well, I'll connect y'all.
Okay.
Thanks for watching the Scruggs Show.
Thank you.
Bye.